Good morning, everyone. Today's topic, to isolate the TA or not? That is the question I'll answer today. The short answer is and not or. So let's unpack this debate just a little further. To give y'all some background on this topic and how it came up, one of our students from our level 1 online pelvic course asked the faculty how we deal with conversations with patients uh, who come in saying, I was advised by this fitness professional to only isolate one of my abdominal muscles. They were saying to isolate the TA during pregnancy. And so this student was asking, like, how do you all navigate this conversation when folks come in with these beliefs that we know to just not be true? And, we hear this a lot in the clinic. The bar instructor or the yoga teacher or the CrossFit coach, they're trying to be helpful and they provide absolute statements in class like, you shouldn't do sit-ups during postpartum, or using your obliques during pregnancy, that's unsafe. We want to keep the baby safe. And these recommendations I just referenced are just simply not true, even if for some they may be coming from a good place of those who are recommending them. So they're just not in line with literature or clinical practice, and they create confusion and often fear of movement during the pregnant and postpartum time. So while this podcast will focus on pregnancy and postpartum, know that this advice is also happening in other areas when the abdomen is affected, like post-op abdominoplasty or hernia repairs or any sort of laparoscopies where the surgeon is going in through the abdomen. So to isolate the TA or not, that is the question. My name is April Dominick. I am on faculty with the Pelvic Division, and I can't wait to talk about 3 tips or topics surrounding this question. First, we'll talk about how to educate your client in navigating that noise of others' opinions. Then we'll go into answering the question to isolate the TA. And our third point, will be talking about co-recruitment of the abdominals and surrounding muscles. So point 1, how to navigate the noise. First, we need to talk about where many of these misconceptions that your clients hear come from so that you know what you're up against and how to address it. Patients will come in quoting, well, I read from People magazine the 6 core exercises that I need to avoid during pregnancy. Or they may say, well, my exercise teacher said, certain exercises are unsafe to do during the postpartum period. And often these blanket statements will be accompanied by explanations like, core training during pregnancy can lead to permanent diastasis recti, or the core exercises can negatively impact the baby. And some even go so far as to claim connections with miscarriage, which is just not true. Instilling fear and promoting unfounded advice in individuals who are already going through a very vulnerable time period, or who may have a history of loss, instilling that fear can wreak havoc on both their belief systems, their emotional health, and overall pregnant and postpartum journey. So here's what we need to remember when we're navigating the noise or helping our clients do so. As their PT, you are the musculoskeletal expert. You are the one who has literature to back up claims that training the core muscles during pregnancy is extremely beneficial. It does not lead to widened interrecti distance, and that it's in fact protective in the postpartum period. You'd know this especially if you've taken some of our ICE pelvic courses. And if you're a little in the haze, you can pause this podcast and hop over to ptonice.com and sign up for one of your first courses for pelvic. So we want to educate the patient on how to deal with this advice that may be unsolicited or suspect from various sources, whether that's exercise specialists, friends and family, or medical professionals. So let's dive in how to tackle each of those groups. Teach your clients to dig further on the credentials of that exercise coach. Many folks out there are claiming they're experts when in reality, they didn't do tons of hours of training and they didn't go through rigorous testing. They went through one pregnancy, and that was their own pregnancy. So many of these common yet misleading myths and absolutes that fitness professionals allude to, they are passed from person to person and they don't have evidence to back them up. Unfortunately, the goal for some of these is to prey on the population and get folks to buy into some program that talks about preventing diastasis recti or, bringing the abs back together. So for those individuals, you want to educate your clients to maybe unfollow them or mute them for the pregnancy and early postpartum period, and instead share with them some resources that you have that are evidence informed and that you trust. And then the friends and family. I don't know what it is, but during pregnancy and postpartum, those folks tend to pipe up quite a bit, right? And they have outdated opinions on exercise and training. And so you'll want to tell your clients to share with them, hey, I am being seen and assessed by a rehab expert, and they are making recommendations that are specific to me for my body. And then medical professionals. When it comes to medical professionals, you want to encourage your clients to get curious. Ask their providers why they are limiting or restricting, say, planks or sit-ups during pregnancy. And if they don't feel comfortable challenging their OB and midwives, a lot of them don't for obvious reasons, you as a rehab provider can reach out and ask. Many times when asked head on, the provider, they may pause and they may cite a resource, whether it's outdated or relevant, who knows? Or they may reflect and they can't really give you a specific source. They may admit, this is just kind of what I learned during residency. It's what I've been taught over the years. And this happens to all of us in our professions. Use that pause as an opportunity to ask if you can share some updated clinical guidelines that show, hey, there are amazing benefits of building core strength and endurance during pregnancy by targeting all of the core muscles, and let them know we don't have evidence to support that planks or sit-ups are harmful during pregnancy. Rather, they increase someone's abdominal wall capacity during pregnancy, and they assist with endurance that's needed for the marathon that is labor and delivery. And there is a protective nature of doing all that strength building during pregnancy for the postpartum period. So, topic two, to isolate the TA or not. So now that we know the myths that clients may come in with, let's talk about the function of the TA and the time and place of when to isolate it. So the transverse abdominis, it spans a huge area of our body. It connects the ribs and the thoracolumbar fascia to the linea alba, the internal obliques, and the pubic bone. And as a review, I'm just going to share a few of the major functions of the TA. It is the deepest layer of our abdominals, so it serves to stabilize the trunk while the extremities are moving. So with walking, with reaching overhead, carrying. The TA also plays an incredibly huge role in managing the intra-abdominal pressure during exertion, during lifting, during coughing and sneezing. And then it helps to maintain resting tension of the abdominal wall to support organs. So To isolate the TA or not? Yes, we can absolutely isolate the TA. Just like any other muscle that may have been atrophied or directly impacted by injury or a condition such as pregnancy, we may need to isolate the TA during our rehab sessions early on. So, using neuromuscular reeducation to connect or to help the individual reconnect with this muscle is incredibly useful. Just like when we're rehabbing the lower extremity after an ACL repair, we wouldn't think twice about isolating the quad and building its capacity, right? Same here. But we don't stay put just rehabbing or just isolating that one muscle, the TA, in isolation of the rest of the core. We connect it with the other pieces of the core, like the obliques, the rectus, the pelvic floor, so that we get a full core recruitment and then later connect it with the rest of the musculoskeletal system. So that brings me to my third point, the need for co-recruitment. Team. It is an and not or philosophy. In some individuals, like I said, we may need to train the TA in isolation, and we also train it with the muscles of the rest of the body. And so early on, during postpartum or throughout pregnancy, dialed in training of the TA or the pelvic floor itself is beneficial. However, the end goal is preparing the whole body for functional movements like lifting a toddler at 38 weeks pregnant or pushing a stroller all afternoon, 8 weeks postpartum. Both of those tasks require recruitment of more than one muscle group. And we can liken the musculoskeletal system learning the new task to the way a full orchestra learns a new song. When learning a new song, each section of the instruments may have their own rehearsals prior to coming together as a full symphony and learning the whole song. So, for example, the violinists may have focused practice sessions to clean up sections early on, and then they layer on rehearsals with their other stringed instruments like cellos, violists, bassists, or maybe harpists. And so they then come together to learn the entire song together as a unit. Similarly, we do the same for training the core. We may start off with the TA, right? Having the patient do focused exercises in quadruped or in supine with different breath strategies. And then in that same PT session, we may bring in the other core muscles like the obliques or the pelvic floor with side planks and Pallof presses. And then the whole core comes together alongside the muscles of the extremities and the spine to practice bird dogs, standing marches, step ups. And then at some point, either in that same hour or across a couple of sessions, depending on the individual's skill and capacity, we would progress to more complex movements. Say for someone trying to learn how to bring their groceries in, a single mom bringing their groceries in 3 weeks postpartum, up a flight of steps. We're going to progress to more complex exercises like dual dumbbell farmer's carry or front rack carries and loaded squats until we match or exceed the carrying the grocery bags in confidently. So this is the basis of when someone is rehabbing the core. At times we may need that isolated practice, and they need to learn to co-recruit with all the core muscles and all the rest of the muscles of the body. So to recap, it can be super frustrating to manage conflicting advice from your clients, other fitness professionals, friends, and healthcare providers. Remember that you are the musculoskeletal expert. And in life, the body doesn't work in isolation. And someone doesn't necessarily have to master one technique prior to introducing another. Isolating muscles has a place in the earlier stages of rehab during pregnancy and postpartum, when things can be super overwhelming as the client is understanding how to be a caregiver and move within their their body that has changed. But our ultimate goal as fitness forward rehab providers is to help our clients return back to function, which requires an and not or approach. And if you want to learn more about how we train the core during pregnancy, postpartum, or post-op, come join us live. We have 5 more opportunities left for the entirety of 2024. 2 opportunities in October. Catch us in Richmond, Virginia, October 5th and 6th. Carson City, Nevada, October 26th and 27th. And then 2 offerings in November, Candler, North Carolina, November 2nd and 3rd, Rochester, New York, November 9th and 10th. And 1 in December, our final class, that is going to be near Austin, Texas, December 7th and 8th. And someone from the chat just asked, in what scenario would we use the TA in isolation? In what scenario would that be indicated? And so that may be if early postpartum, someone is just struggling to find their deep core, right? When we ask for an activation of their abdominals, what would that look like? Then if they just can't quite connect with that area of the body, we may then do some of those isolated TA contractions in order to help them reconnect with that area of the abdominals. And again, be layering in connecting with their breath and connecting with the pelvic floor as they get better with that. So thank you so much for the question, and cheers, everyone. I'll see you all next time.